Good evening. Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 10 of The Full Pour. This has been an extremely intense and impactful week, and we hope we can bring you a little reprieve and a little levity to your evening. We're going to have a little fun chat with Washington Wine's dynamic duo. That is Ashley Trout of Brook and Bull and husband Brian Rudin of Canvasback. So tonight's topic is blends. We got a little fun Q&A to start out with them, but blends, it's something Washington State's known for. So let's get started. I'm going to bring on Brian and Ashley right now. Howdy.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us. Which way are we going? There we go.
Got to move a couple things here. You know, this is life, how it goes. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are
Teachers,
you?
Right?
What's that? Yeah. What's that?
Homeschool teachers?
Yes.
Awesome. Who's doing? Are you guys splitting up the duties between the two of you?
We've got it figured out kind of cool. We teamed up with some dear friends, and they have 2 kids our kids' age. So each adult takes all 4 kids 1 day a week. And
That's amazing.
It's working out great. It's really cool.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So here we go. So we've got Brian Rudin from Canvasback. I mean, you've been a Washington winemaker for a long time. Tell us a little bit how you got into this winemaking biz.
I came to it through restaurants. I graduated college with no plan, and working at a restaurant in Seattle, I got exposure to amazing wines from all over the world. And this is back in 2002, and Washington wines were just taking off. And so I was just thrilled with this prospect that you could do this at home. I grew up in Eastern Washington, and when I had an opportunity to go out to Walla Walla and check out the wine scene, I fell in love, and I pulled up my plans. I moved out there, went through the local community college program, the Walla Walla Community College, amazing school. I met Ashley there. I fell in love with her almost at first sight. But
doesn't everybody?
And I played my long game on that, and I was able to start working my way up from the bottom.
That's awesome. And Ashley, you have a pretty nice pedigree in the winemaking business as well. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of got started in the winemaking.
Yeah, it was right place, right time. So I was in Walla Walla. I had moved from Washington, D.C. and a little bit of LA. I wanted to see a small town. So I moved to Walla Walla, and that was in '99. So that was right when the wine industry was starting up in Walla Walla. And just ultimate right place, right time. So I started with Reininger Winery. I was with Reininger for 8 years. I started flying Trout in 2006, sold it in 2010, and then started Brook and Bull and Vital Wines, our nonprofit winery, 3 or 4 years ago.
Awesome. And actually Vital Wines is such an awesome philanthropic adventure for you. So tell us just quickly a little bit about what Vital Wines does, how they procure the wines and grapes and everything.
So Vital's a nonprofit winery for better access to healthcare for vineyard and cellar workers in our local communities. And we get everything donated: grapes, corks, capsules, you name it, graphic design work, shipping supplies. It's been awesome. And it's just really important that we take care of everybody who is in our industry.
Sorry, I'm trying to find you guys. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, it's good. It keeps it exciting. Just visually.
Moving us all around.
Yeah. So now more than ever with the coronavirus and making sure that everybody's able to get tested and making sure that all those people who can slip through the cracks don't slip through the cracks. It's been really meaningful work.
That's awesome. I mean, I also grew up in Eastern Washington, so I grew up in kind of an ag family, and so know how important it is for taking care of our farm workers out there. So kudos to you. You're doing an awesome job, getting a lot of press for it, which is just, making it even bigger and throwing a broader reach, which is awesome. So cool. Well, before we get into some things, first of all, everybody, can you tell us, drop in your comments into the comments what you're drinking tonight? This is a episode about blends just in general. So let us know what you're drinking. Drop in the comments. We'll throw them up here. In the meantime, we're going to do a little question and answer fun times with you guys, okay? So here we go. Because you are this lovely husband and wife, this should be a little fun. Question. What do you admire most about each other's winemaking style? We're going to stay nice to start, so.
I am a little nervous. We weren't allowed to see any of these questions ahead of time. And I know you well enough to know that I should be nervous. No, this is nice. All right, I'll start. I love how relentless Brian is when it comes to tweaking specific details. So he's really wonderful at month after month, year after year, even week after week, he'll return to the same barrel and analyze, like, you know, how are we doing with the oak program? Do we like this barrel for this vineyard? Do we like this amount of racking for this specific section of this vineyard? And he really, for the amount of wine that he makes, which is not the tiniest in Washington State, he really is extreme in his attention to detail, and something that most people wouldn't go back and revisit, he would just keep revisiting. And I think it's that attention to detail that allows him to work with things as intense as Red Mountain Cabernet. Right, because that thing will bite you in the butt if you look the wrong way for long enough. It'll just be a tannic beast that isn't anything else at the end of the day, right? I mean, it could be. And so it's this constant honing, and it takes a lot of patience, which, interestingly enough, he doesn't have in other realms of life. It's
funny
just
how that happens.
Funny how that happens. It's like those really clean people who have one room that's just trashed, right? This is the opposite. There's no patience anywhere else in life, but with this, it's like spot on.
That's awesome. And how about you, Brian?
Ashley's winemaking style is the thing that I admire most about it is it's the way she attacks anything. It's with a total lack of fear and a total disregard for the rules. So Ashley,
get along so great.
It's true. Ashley will not take a traditional approach to winemaking because somebody decided in France 150 years ago that was the way to do it. She doesn't care about that, and I think that's awesome. Not afraid to be experimentational and avant-garde with the things that she blends together, the way that she blends them. All rules are off, and Ashley's unafraid to try new things, and she'll do that in the pursuit of flavors, or just, I think sometimes just to shock people, or shock herself, or shock me. And it's really cool. Ashley's wines, they tend to be very, very fragrant, very aromatic, very open, and they don't lean on a whole lot of oak. And so what you really do appreciate is the blend itself, and the varieties come singing through. And a lot of times you end up with something totally new that neither one of those grapes would do on its own. So it's really cool to kind of like, she's like a painter set free in the studio, and just like splatters paint on everything and comes up with something beautiful at the end. And it's really cool to watch.
That's awesome. Well, I'm such a huge fan. I'm sure you can probably see there's probably many bottles of hers on my wall right now. You can't see it.
Oh, nice.
White labels are all Brook and Bull. So, okay, next question. What do you think you do better than your partner in winemaking?
What do you think you do better than your partner in winemaking? Oh,
Yeah.
You bastards! Who asked that question? You're trying to get us divorced.
No, we're just trying to have a fun, little, back and forth banter. You can be as nice as you want.
I'm gonna go. This probably isn't the answer that you want, but I'm gonna be really honest. How's that? It's
That's what we're here for.
It's not exactly winemaking, but at the end of the day, it super is. Brian cannot extricate himself from chit chat, and so like all these truckers will come in and they'll deliver fruit, and then interns will have a question, and other winemakers will be running around, and everybody's sort of coming and going, and like already what he's got on his plate is a lot, and yet he can't get he can't not start a conversation, and then he can't get out of it, and then he's surprised when it's like 11 o'clock at night, and right,
Where's my
it's one of
husband?
those.
That's hilarious.
That is awesome. Okay.
And what do I think I'm better at? That okay, it's gonna sound contradictory because my time management skills are terrible.
Not good.
But I think that I will plan a little bit more over the long game and then blow the day. And then Ashley will do a little bit less planning over the long term and then realize that she needs to ace the day. Like every single moment has to fall perfectly for it to unravel.
Yeah.
And so, but like Ashley's long range planning is a total disaster.
It's not great.
It's hard to watch. But here's the thing. Ashley has opportunities ringing all the time, and she's like, oh, okay, well, if I move right now, then I can score these grapes last second as long as I can drive out to Wapato and pick them up. But I hadn't planned for this, so if you don't mind grabbing the kids and watching them for 48 hours in the middle of harvest, then this is gonna work just fine. So we have a lot of days that go like that, and and it works amazingly.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right. On to the next one. What is your favorite wine your partner makes?
Oh gosh. Well, okay, so right now Brian's got Red Mountain Cabernet. It's the good old fashioned Red Mountain Cabernet Canvasback. I'm trying to get my angle right. But there's also the Grand Passage, which is like the cream of the crop cab blend that he does. That's phenomenal. So that would be my answer there.
I love Ashley's rosés. I love the freshness and the verve and the minerality in her rosés, both on Vital and Brook and Bull. I think she's a very talented rosé winemaker. But I really, right now, I'm drinking the 2017 Deviant, which is a blend, and it's Malbec and Syrah, right?
Cab Franc and Malbec.
Cab Franc and Malbec. My apologies. And it's lush, it's inviting, but has at the same time all this restraint, kind of like Ashley's personality.
Oh my gosh, I heard myself echoing through your house.
Echoing through the internet.
I mean, I've never been, nobody's ever said I was a quiet voice. So, my neighbors can probably hear me at this point, but, whatever.
No indoor voices for you.
I don't even know what that means. Yeah. So, all right. So next question. If Ashley were a wine or a varietal, what would she be?
I feel like this is some like 1980s like marriage game show. Okay,
yeah, it is.
Go.
If Ashley were a wine, she would definitely be a large format wine. And don't, before you take that the wrong way.
Wait a second.
And I only say that because they age better. That's it. That's the only reason.
That's wonderful. That is really nice. And
are we moving on? Wait, are we moving on?
No,
just leaving it back. Are we leaving it just as I'm a large format?
You're a large format wine because they stay young forever. It's amazing. Ashley's 38 years old. She looks like she's 24.
She absolutely does. She does. She's a fine wine. And Brian, Ashley, what do you think? What would he be?
Oh gosh. Gosh, this is hard off the cuff. I would say he's like kind of like a carbonically macerated, like a Beaujolais, because everything's just like go mode, explosion. Like, I'm not going to say nothing sophisticated about it, but I'm going to say all party, right? Like you have some sophisticated Beaujolais. Like maybe we get into the crew, right?
I'm a Beaujolais. You're a large format, and I'm a Beaujolais. That's terrible. I'm a Grand Burgundy, baby. Come on.
No.
I'm at least a Premier Cru Burgundy.
You're like all explosion all the time.
This is exactly what I was wanting with this question. So thank you guys so much. And just kind of, wanting to know how your experiences in wine has differed.
I mean, it's been different in every way. I got into it at a different time of the industry, and I've historically been with smaller wineries. I've done a lot more of the business side of running a winery. I've done sort of had my hand in jack of all trades, but smaller on every front and sort of more distracted for that very reason. But Brian's been more honed in on winemaking specifically and at a larger scale, and you went through the program. What would you say would be different?
No, that's right. I mean, Ashley's talents really extend to everything she does, and so she's had to be the general manager, the national salesperson, the direct consumer salesperson, the owner, the winemaker, the marketer, and she does it all really well. I've always worked sort of in larger organizations, and so I get really focused in the winery and in the vineyard. But I'd say where I've been lucky is every job I've ever had, every winemaker or assistant winemaker job I've worked throughout the years, we've always had estate acres attached to the winery, and I've always been thankful for that because it's kept my feet very much in the winery, but also able to have a key hand in the farming and be able to work things from the ground up. And so I've been lucky. I think I've been a winemaker with one foot in the vineyard my whole career, and I'm thankful for that. I love the vineyard side of things.
So is there a joint winery between the two of you, or do you want to just keep it very separate?
You should see. Okay, we have a rule. Let me take this one just to explain how this goes with us.
Yeah.
We're married. We cook dinner in the same kitchen every night, except we do not allow ourselves to cook in the same kitchen at the same time. When we like to be the boss where we are, both of us, especially Ashley, and when we're in the kitchen, we don't like collaborate on meals. We have Brian cooks nights, and then I do the dishes, and then we have Ashley cooks nights, and then she does the dishes, because we're both such control freaks on how the preparation has to go on something. That's the truth that we've negotiated since the first month of our marriage 12 years ago.
So this is the lesson that we learned in, I think 2007. I was about to bottle, and it was my winery. And what I mean by that is I owned it. And I ran it, and I was the winemaker, and every single thing that happened in that winery was because of me. It was a one-woman show. When I say my winery, I mean it.
Yeah.
And I invited my boyfriend to come help bottle with me.
I think I was a fiance back in those days.
I don't think so.
Clarify
I don't
for the
think so.
record.
And I asked if he wanted to come help bottle, and it was just like a small hand bottling, right? And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, that would be great." He was in the wine program at the time, so he shows up and immediately changes the radio station and tells me to hold the hose. And I was like, "You're out. You're out." And
You're fired.
Different bars that night until like 3 a.m, and that was it.
Well, and that was another thing I was going to ask, because I mean, at what point do you share your wine with one another? I mean, it's got to be when it's bottled, right? I mean, or do you guys do some?
No, it's a process. It's a process. It's a difference of process, like the act of crafting and the speed at which you do it, and the decision making in the moment, and the sensory experience that you want to come to on your own. And then when you want to go double check something or get a second opinion, like I really trust Brian's palate and he trusts my palate. I just don't want him changing the radio station while I'm working.
I hear you. I hear you.
Right.
That's why I really go to the office. My husband's working at home. We just we just have to have our space,
I think that's what it is.
We do.
We'll share quite a bit. So we talk shop all the time. We bounce ideas off of each other. Really what I love to do is I'll get my wines to the 80% mark of where I want them, and I'll bring them home and I'll say, "Hey, what do you think about this one versus this one?" Or, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or, "Hey, we tried this on this wine. What do you think?" Mm-hmm. And then it's like a really safe environment. But Ashley doesn't want to, she doesn't want to walk into the winery and start, giving me pointers, and vice versa. I think we're both makers in that sense, and we take a lot of pride in what we're doing. But I think in the winery, we kind of get in each other's way. We have the same job essentially. And so it's awesome that we each have our own space to do the thing we love. And I don't know if we're ever going to collaborate. We have a little bit of little bit of crossover here and there on Vital, where I help out on certain projects. But again, I try and keep a real limited focus so I can stay out of the way and just do the one thing that's helpful for that project. But no, we can't even. We still don't even cook meals, at the same time. So that tells you everything you need to know right there.
Well, let's get into talking about some blends, you guys. So, viewers out there, if you're watching, if you have questions about blends, tell us, ask us now. We'll put it up on the screen so they can answer some of your questions. But Erin helped me with this one question, and I think it's very interesting because I honestly did not know this until she wrote this up. And how are single varietals still blends? I did not know this. I didn't even know that could be a thing.
So we make a lot of single variety wines, but of course you can. We have the ability to blend, outside of that variety 25%, and I think the timing still matters. The timing, the amount, the varieties you blend with, they don't all play the same together in the schoolyard. And so when we produce Cabernet, we're using Merlot and Cab Franc and Malbec and Petit Verdot in support of making Cabernet, and so the blending process is still really important. But I think you still want your Cab to taste like Cab, and you have these other varieties as tools in your toolbox that you can use to influence flavors and textures.
Okay, but what Erin and I were also talking about was like, say you've got a 100% Cabernet, right? And that's a single varietal. But within that 100% Cabernet, and your wines very much fit this mold, you're blending different vineyards. You're blending different clones, you're blending different vineyards, and the way that you make any wine is very much like a blend. You keep a lot of those, you experiment with this oak profile or this kind of temperature of a certain fermentation on this lot, and then you keep kegs of hard press, right? And so in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's true. But to a certain extent, just to differentiate how Ashley's blends look, how drastically different they are. We're blending all the time, but always kind of within the lines. Like I want Cabernet to be a great expression of Cabernet and have the variety that sticks with you. Ashley can do whatever she wants because she makes up these crazy ass blends, and she can.
Curse?
Oh, sorry, I don't know. Sorry about that. My bad. FCC. Ashley can really rewrite the book on flavors and textures because she doesn't have any expectations in mind when she starts. I think she has a lot of artistic license in the way that you blend. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Well, Miss Erin, in Washington State, how much of the main varietal does it have to be to have it on the label?
It's 75%.
Right. I knew that one. Jeez. Awesome. So how would you go about assessing a wine, and more specifically a blend? Like what are you looking for? I mean, because anybody can blend any wines together. How do you know if it works or when it doesn't? Is it an overwhelming one varietal that's coming out, or just?
Yeah, so I think the blending component of it really looks no different if your end goal is a 100% varietal versus a blend, which is to say the goals are always, and chime in here, balanced acid, tannins, phenolics, mid-palate, right? And that you've got enough ripeness to give you interesting notes on the front, enough acid to give you good finish on the end. Oak, how does that play a role? And when I think about blending, that's how I think about blending, which is why I would say it doesn't make any difference whether your end goal is a varietal and you're looking at different components within that cellar versus the end goal is a blend and you're looking at, again, different components within your cellar. Your different components just happen to be very different from each other, which is why I'm so impressed by how Brian looks at everything kind of like a blend, because the differences are really sophisticated and minute where he's working with them, whereas I'm more like full Rothko, right?
You guys, you have to think about it this way. It takes us, anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years to make a red wine. And the way that we do it here in Washington State, making big, rich, fully textured reds, And so 2 years, that's a long time. There's a lot of timing that's sensitive as to when you blend, whether it works. But to answer your question, Kristin, I think the real thing is you have to trial everything. And so sometimes you get these ideas in your mind. You're like, okay, I really want to do like 15% Petit Verdot in the Cabernet to make it darker, more black fruit, more perfume and ink. And you have this concept, and then you sit down and you've already fermented your Cabernet and you've already fermented your Petit Verdot, and they're still separated in barrels. And so what you do is we just grab a little sample of the cab we want to work with, grab a sample of the Petit Verdot, and then we get a beaker and a graduated cylinder, and we just start playing with it. And you're like, okay, 20% Petit Verdot in the cab, and then your face scrunches up and you go, ouch, that's too much tannin and acid, that hurts my face. Let's try and back it down to 10%, or like 2%. You're like, I can't even, it doesn't even tickle. I can't even tell if there's any Petit Verdot in this or not. And so you have an opportunity to play with it and until you get it right. And then, listen, the day that you're blending, you get these impressions, but it takes 2 years to make the wine.
Totally.
And so sometimes the way that it tastes the day you blend, 2 years later when you're bottling it, or 3 or 4 years later when people are drinking it, it's moved on and it tastes a different way. So you have to use your imagination. Yeah, you do. You really, I think it's just experience. You go through it enough times and you see, if I do this now, then 3 years later it's this way. If I do it this way, 4 years later it's soft and juicy, whatever the case is. But I'm really trying everything out. Like, you have the opportunity to mess with it before you actually pull all the barrels out, put them in a tank. It gives us an opportunity to screw around.
And I mean, like, what percentage of the time are you going into it saying, I want this blend, I want these wines together? Or is it just kind of like after tasting a specific single varietal, you're like, I think it needs a little more, let's move this into a blend format?
Oh gosh, I went brain dead. It's the end of the day. So the question is, what percentage?
Is it typical for a winemaker to go into it knowing that they want to do a blend out of this wine? Or is it just, it almost like, okay, this single varietal isn't where I want it to be. It needs a little bit of, Petit Verdot or, another varietal in it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that has to do with whether it's a new vineyard that you're working with, because that's going to throw you a lot of curveballs, right? I would say I would say 70% of the time, I know more or less that we want to release X number of blends and wines in 2023, right, or 2022. Right. And then I know generally what, I work with 4 different vineyards just for Malbec. And so I know generally which ones are going to land in the varietal Malbec and which ones are going to land in the blend Malbec. But there are some years where I'm wrong and I want the ability to change that and stick 1 barrel of the extra tannic stuff in the varietal Malbec and not in the blend, right? So I leave that open.
Right. Awesome. And say, what's the craziest blend that worked out and which was the worst?
This is one for you.
It's like, I don't do anything ever bad.
That's a crazy blend lady. This is totally an Ashley question.
Yeah. She seems more experimental.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I didn't bottle the worst one.
Yeah.
We do tend, I mean, we'll trial everything before bottling it, a lot. Yeah, actually, I would say it's the varietals where I'm sort of committed to releasing something, and now I've got to do it. And I don't have a lot of wiggle room because I don't have that many other barrels of Cab Franc or Petit Verdot or whatever it is. And then you wind up releasing something that maybe the tannins got away from me. Whereas the blend, kind of up until the last second, you can keep fiddling with it because the rules aren't stopping you from doing so.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in our case, there's a topic of wine color that people don't always think about, because we think about color as cosmetic. But in the red wines, in the big red wine category, color is not just cosmetic. Color contributes to texture. And so the pigment anthocyanin in wine will bind with tannins to make for very soft feeling polymeric phenols. And so if you have more color, you can usually make a softer seeming wine. Think about it. Syrah has a ton of color and is really, really soft on the palate. Malbec has a ton of color and can be really, really, really soft. Take something like Nebbiolo, which has a lot of tannin and very low color. And Nebbiolo, those wines can seem extraordinarily severe and austere for many years until those tannins soften. So this is a little bit too much science to say that I think it's really important for us. We've had some of our most surprising successes taking stuff like Malbec that has a ton of pigment and then blending it right out of the gates with Cabernet Sauvignon. So like almost at the press, we'll press off Cab, and if we have some Malbec on hand that was recently pressed off during fermentation, we'll start doing blend trials right away. This is in the heat of harvest, and if we can get all that color into Cab that has a lot of tannin, you can usually really soften out the texture and darken the wine at once. And so we're blending not just for flavors and aromatics, but blending for color and blending for a particular build, the way that the tannins and the colors interact and how it feels on your palate.
Awesome. Let's see, are there any more comments over here? Oh, Scott Murphy, we know you. What's your favorite wine region outside of Washington State that you enjoy drinking the most?
How about I'll tell you Ashley's.
I was going to say, I feel like I could tell you Ashley's too. Would that be in Argentina?
No. I think she loves Argentina, but I'm going to say that Ashley is a Sancerre lady.
Oh, delicate, light, beautiful.
It's like me. Yeah, for Brian, it's German Rieslings, the Mosel, all that jazz. Austrian and German Rieslings.
I'm not ashamed, loud and proud on German Riesling.
Love it. Do you know who this is, Ashley?
Yeah, that was from one of the first wines that I ever released it was a small lot. It was over in Flying Trout, and it was a ridiculous little small lot release. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Well, I'm drinking tonight because I didn't have any of your guys' wines available. I'm pretty sure that Canvasback just sent Erin something, but that's not at my house, obviously. But I'm having this Ad Lucem. Are you guys familiar? So this is it's a blend from Lady Hill out of St. Paul, Oregon, and it's a 2015 Daystar Red Heaven Vineyard, Columbia Valley, 44 Grenache, 38 Syrah, and 18 Mourvèdre. And it is dreamy. It is dreamy. So I'm really enjoying that. What are you guys drinking personally right in front of you right now?
We brought our own stuff. We weren't sure what to do.
I'm drinking Brian's.
Woohoo! I love that.
I've had my wine. I've had his wine too. But.
Awesome.
So for Brian, it's the Canvasback Red Mountain Cabernet 2015, and then for me, it's for Brian, he's drinking the Come Hell or High Water, which is Grenache, Cabernet, and Mourvèdre.
Yum. Awesome. And is Canvasback and also the Brook and Bull wines available online to purchase? Awesome.
Yes.
Perfect. So we've got follow at Canvasback Wine and also follow at Brook and Bull Wines. And let's see if there's any more questions. Otherwise, we should probably wrap it up because people have about a 30-minute attention span. And let's see. I think that's going to do it for tonight. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Do you guys want to give a shout out to your wineries, or is there anything you guys want to close out with?
I just want to thank my agent, Johnny John Paul in Salinas, California. He helped hook me up with this job. Thanks, Johnny John.
I would like to say that if anybody wants to head over to Vital Wines, it's www.vitalwinery.com. We've got the ability for you to purchase a day at home, which is a donation so that we can keep a vineyard worker at home if they have any reason they need to be. So they have a brother or sister who's getting tested, but they haven't heard the results back, or they don't have a car and now they can't carpool with others, or they have kids at home that are susceptible, or we've had any number of instances where somebody was going to fall through the cracks, and this enabled them to stay at home and still be paid for a day.
I love that. That's so awesome. Good work. Good feeling work, Ashley. Well, awesome. Well, I will let you guys go. And just for the viewers out there, up next for episode 11, next Thursday, we're going to be trumpsing through the orchards out in Port Townsend with Finn River Farm and Cidery with the cider maker out there. So we're going to be kind of cruising around the orchard and drinking some cider. So stay tuned for that. And otherwise, stay safe, my friends. Love you guys.
Cheers,
Bye.
guys. Thank you.